It's time for the Writers' Corner live show. Here on the show, we connect authors from around the globe to each other as well as to their readers. You will meet new as well as seasoned and aspiring authors on the show. Today, we invite you to hear the backstory of none other than our featured author for the week, Matthew Arnold Stern, and he is the author of Amiga. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Hello and welcome to the Writers Corner live show. If you're just joining us, I'm your host, Brigetti Limbanda from Cape Town in South Africa. I am a live video camera confidence coach. I also host and produce live shows such as these that helps brands, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and of course, authors share their stories. I'm also very passionate about responsible social media. My co host is Mary Elizabeth Jackson. She is an award winning author of the Poolicious children's book series. She's also working on a movie screenplay, which is very exciting, and we're going to be asking her about that someday. But apart from that, very important to Mary is that she is a wife and she is also mom to three special humans that inspire her. She's also a special needs advocate and a disability advocate, and she lives in Nashville in the USA. And of course, as I said earlier, I'm in Cape Town in South Africa. So if you are joining us live, do type live in the comments and do let us know where you are watching from. So we are live on a number of different platforms. We are live on LinkedIn, we are live on Facebook, on YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, and Twitch. So, welcome to each of you on the different platforms where you're joining us from. And welcome to the show, Mary. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you? And we welcome everybody who's watching and who watches on the replay. And, please share the show out because you never know who is looking to hear the story about an author and their journey and the wisdom that he's going to share with us today about his journey and the things that he's done and what's worked for him or he thinks will work for him because a lot of things are trial and error when you're an author, to finally find what works.
I know, absolutely. And the exciting thing about the show is that every single author is different. Their journey is different. Their experiences are different. Their reasons for becoming an author are different. And so it's been amazing. And so Arnold's upcoming novel called Amiga comes from his experiences in the computer industry, as the name probably is a dead giveaway.
Right. Yes.
He's an 80s technical writer and computer journalist. He has earned awards for his writing and public speaking, including being a distinguished Toastmaster. Matthews also received an award of excellence for or from the International Online Communications Competition. And his other books include Mastering Table Topics, a nonfiction book about impromptu speaking, and also the novels Offline and Doria. Now, we said earlier, I'm in Cape Town, you're in Nashville, and he grew up in the San Fernando Valley in the USA, and he graduated summa cum laude from the California State University, Northridge. He lives in the Orange County, California, and he's married with two children, a granddaughter, and he says lots of cats in his life too.
Yeah.
Shall we?
So he's the cat man, not the cat lady. He's the cat man.
Yes, absolutely. Shall we invite him onto the show?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, let's invite Matthew.
Good morning or good evening and good afternoon wherever you are.
Yeah, that's right. We're sort of in this different. I think you and I are just an hour apart with the time changing, Matthew, because you're 9 o'clock, right? And I'm 10 o'clock, so we're just about an hour apart from each other.
It's 8 o'clock now.
Oh, so we're 2 hours still. Okay.
Yes, because we're on. Because Bridget, we ended daylight savings time in the U.S. on Sunday, so we're still getting adjusted to the time change.
Yeah.
I know. It can be very confusing. We've never had daylight saving in South Africa where I am, so it's not something that we're used to. But I'm aware that in different parts of the globe, it is there, and it's made for some very interesting times. When they change, because it's an adjustment.
Yeah, like last year at this time, she and I had a huge adjustment because we just didn't think it was going to change the time of the show actually, but because the way things are set up when you do live streaming and the show's already set, it did change it for us, but it doesn't change for her. So that's why I said to you, and I have to say to other authors who I've said at 11 o'clock when they were booked, it's actually 10 o'clock now because our time has changed. So, and it's just, it's we all had to learn. I want to ask you, the area that you're in, have you been in, I don't mean to sound like I haven't watched everything on the news, but the fires, are you safe where you're at?
Yes, where I'm at, I'm located in Orange County, so we're more in towards the coast.
Okay.
But I do have friends who are up in the northern part of the LA area who they've been affected by the fires. There's a lot of schools have been closed and have canceled or rescheduled events. And my daughter, actually, there was a brush fire not too far from where she lives. It's like a few miles east of here, but it's more towards the brushland. And there was a small fire. Fortunately, they were able to put it out before it threatened her home. So it's a really big concern here.
Yeah, because we have an author coming on in a couple of weeks, and her publicist is in LA. And when the author was traveling back from Canada, she had to evacuate immediately her home. So yeah. So it's a scary situation people in California are dealing with. But it happens almost every year, doesn't it? It just seems like, I mean, there are fires every year, almost, right, out there.
Yes, there is. It's because we live the natural plant life here is designed to burn because we live in what's called chaparral country. And that's the way seeds get released and the forest regerminates. But because of climate change, it does lead to situations where we have extreme rain, which causes a lot of plant growth and then drought. And then we have the Santa Ana winds that dry out the plant life. And it just makes these fires a lot bigger and a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. So we want to find out a little bit more about your book, though. For those that are not familiar with the 80s, tell us a little bit about Amiga and why you chose to go with the name.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Yeah.
Yes. Well, first of all, about the Amiga computer itself. It was a computer that Commodore had marketed from 1985 when they released the first Amiga computer until 1994 when Commodore filed for bankruptcy. And I think a lot of younger people might not remember Commodore during the 80s when they came out with the Commodore 64, it was the most popular home computer, competing with Apple and Atari and IBM. So when the Amiga came out in 1985, it had features that were the most advanced of any computer of its time. It could run multiple programs at once. It had the largest color palette of any computer, and it could do desktop video. So the Amiga was used for music videos and television shows like Babylon 5, Max Headroom, and the Dire Straits video Money for Nothing. So the Amiga eventually couldn't compete with the IBM PC, which dominated the computer market at the time. So that's when Commodore went into bankruptcy. But for those of us who grew up with computers or had computers in the 80s, there is always sort of a nostalgic connection because it reminds us of our first experiences with computers. And because the Amiga was just such a great machine, and we had really hoped that that would be the one that succeeded.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing, you know, and it's a rich history for our digital age or digital era. You know, just thinking back and remembering where we come from and how far we've come. You know,
Yes.
history is important. And I think that, you know, you writing the book to sort of keep that history alive, or I think that's why I wrote the book. Why did you write the book apart from that?
Well, I wanted to write a book about my experiences in the early days of the computer industry for a long time because there was it was a very exciting time. It was a time of possibilities. There was this new technology and we didn't know what it was capable of doing. And also, I was younger, I was in my 20s. So I wanted to recapture that experience, but also I wanted to frame it with what's happening right now. One of the big concerns that came up when I wrote this book is I'm now in my mid to going on to the late 50s. And I see people who grew up with this technology, who it nature they're moving up a certain amount of uncertainty that and sometimes even tension between generations. There's a big controversy now on Twitter where people from my generation are complaining about the millennials and they're complaining about Gen Z and Gen X. So what I wanted to do was to provide some sort of resolution for this by showing how we can look back at our past and realize that, hey, we were once young and we were trying to establish ourselves and to be more empathetic to those who are now coming up on their right today.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's, I mean, it's the battle of wills these days, you know, with people trying to figure out where they fit into the time and space of things.
Yes. And again, it comes down to perspective too, because for those of us who this technology was new and what we were busy defining it, we had a lot of open beliefs about what it could do, and now you have people who grew up with it and they know what the technology can do. And so there's that difference of perspective. And I think one of the things that's great about learning about the history of our gadgets, of our technology, is we can see how things became the way that they are today. Where did this technology come from? Where did these social media trends come from? And so it's good to look back at our past to see it from the beginning, and then we can learn from those lessons as we learn how to use these tools more responsibly.
Oh, I love that. Now you're speaking my language.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about that. Our kids are growing up because I think we're all close in age here. But our kids are growing up in a totally, completely, 100% different time than we are, and they don't understand that kind of monitoring yourself, kind of pacing yourself. You know, hey, it's okay if I'm on the computer or my phone or tablet. It's okay if I'm not on. I need to have that self-control. I think most of us adults have self-control and know that I should not let this control my life, even though it provides so much opportunity for, having fun, but also using it as a business tool. It's just changed the world for authors, period. It's just unbelievable what it does for authors and for other people in business. But our kids won't ever know what it's like to the time before we had all this stuff. You know, we can all say, oh, remember when? You know, the phone was on the wall still. You know, you actually had to dial it, you know. So it's really fascinating how quick everything has changed, just even in the last 10 years or 5 even. It's just, you know, it's huge.
And that's
Wow.
true. And I look at like our smartphones of today and how they are much more powerful than even the personal computers of 5 or 10 years ago. So the
Mhm.
capabilities are incredible. And of course, what's sort of funny is, we talk about how younger people today, they're not aware of the technology. They're not used to a time before. Just imagine what's going to happen when they're our age. And if technology continues to progress the way that it is, their children are going to ask them about, they're going to have technology that even our children today never imagined. So it's a
It'll just,
constant, it's continuum.
yeah, it'll just be Ready Player One. Have you watched that movie?
No, I haven't, although I've seen enough clips of that and saying, yeah, I recognize that game and I wrote that
Yeah.
thing. So,
That will be our life. I mean, if things don't, I mean, they keep going in that direction. So it is kind of funny. But as a parent, parenting in this day and age is, so different. I don't think it was different for so much. I don't think it was like such a hop for our grandparents and great grandparents to parent, our grandparents and our parents. But for us, it's like a totally different world. I mean, my in-laws will not even touch the computer because my mother-in-law just can't even, she just can't deal with what she has to do, bless her heart. And I'm just like, it's actually, you probably have some fun.
yeah. Well, it's amazing because my granddaughter is 6, and she was able to figure out my wife's iPad when she was 2,
Oh
and she
yeah.
does all sorts of things with it, with all sorts of just the hours of entertainment that are available on YouTube, and there's such a wide variety of videos that you can find. Uh, there's also, I think, one great thing about technology is that it also helps people who have disabilities. My granddaughter
Mm-hmm.
has cerebral palsy, and she uses a communication device,
Yeah.
which is a Microsoft Surface with special soundboard software and with speakers. And she can communicate with it, and she's just a whiz at picking that up. And this is technology that makes life a lot better for people who are dealing with any type of limitation. And certainly I've seen it evolve in my years in the computer industry. I remember the first time they came out with Braille tablets with people who have limited vision, and with some of the other software that has become available, and even with websites, how they're making them more accessible to people. So the technology, its advancements bring a lot of risks and problems, but it also brings a lot of opportunity and gives people chances that they didn't have in the past.
Right.
That's a great point that you mentioned right there. A lot of people who may be anti-technology don't realize how intertwined tech has become in our lives, and that computer technology goes beyond an iPad or an iPhone or a smartphone in your hand. There's so much more that tech has to offer, and the evolution of tech has made our lives richer in many ways. And as you said, it's created opportunities for people who are differently abled.
Yes,
And that is absolutely huge. But I do want to speak also about how you've gone about marketing your book. If you have you got a copy there? Can you just show us a copy of your book firstly?
I sure can. Let's see, can we get it in the frame? There we go.
Yeah.
So, in terms of book marketing, of course, that's always the crux of the thing, is how do we get our books in the hands of readers? And there's a lot of different things that are available. Some things work and some things don't. And some things you could do very effectively with little or no money. And some things you could spend a lot of money on that wind up being wastes. So I think some of the important things are whenever you can find opportunities to do person to person contact. Like in the past few months, I did a speakers or writers panel in Anaheim at a place called the Museo. And then about a month ago, I was at an event called Indie Author Day. You might be able to see I got it right, the poster off my shoulder. And it's a community event where writers throughout Orange County, we're at the Anaheim Central Library. It happens every year in October. And we go there and we promote our books. It's open to the public. We also have readings and panels. I moderated the panels for that. So whenever you can do in-person stuff, when you can make person-to-person connections, that seems to work very well. And even things like this, where we record these videos and people can listen to them, even if they can't meet us in person, just getting yourself out there and making yourself visible and letting people know that, hey, there's a person behind this book, that works out pretty well.
Yeah, I know a lot of people underestimate the value of in-person meetups. So if you can create those opportunities to meet with your audience in person, it's phenomenal. There's nothing beats the human connections. Of course, when you on shows like these, you can speak to a very broad audience, and we always invite people to ask questions to the author either during when we are live or when watching on the replay, because it's easy to go back. And it's one thing that I value about these live videos is because it gives you opportunity to ask something to an author in person. I mean, for example, I'm in Cape Town. I would never have had the opportunity to talk to you like this.
Yes.
If it was not for this, I would not have had Mary as, my amazing co-host. We would not have met if it wasn't for live video. So yes, it creates phenomenal opportunities. So if you are watching the show and you want to have a question for Matthew, please type it in the comments and we'll be sure to get back to you that way. Tell us, how did you decide between self-publishing and going with a publishing house? What swayed your decision?
Well, it is a tough decision to make because self-publishing is an option that we could always choose. Now, what I wanted to do with Amiga and is that I wanted to find a publisher for my fiction books, because first of all, there is a certain validation that comes with getting selected by a publisher. It does have a certain bit of more weight to it than self-publishing. Nothing against self-publishing. My Table Topics book has done very well as a self-published book, but why that works, it's a specialized market. But one of the most valuable things I've gotten out of working with my publisher, Black Rose Writing, is the feedback, being able to look at, to have them look at the book, give me feedback. And this feedback was extremely helpful. And so that's what I wanted to do, was to take advantage of the resources that come with going with a publisher, the marketing resources, because they do have public relations, they could send stuff out to reviewers. There's also book layout and cover design. These things you could do with self-publishing, but they cost you. So working with the publisher, this was something that I wanted to do for fiction.
Yeah, no, that's a great way. One's got to reason this out, because one thing works for one author, not for another. So you've got to figure out how it could best benefit yourself and your audience. I want to give a shout out very quickly to Hamad from Pakistan that's watching us on YouTube, and his parents make sure that he is safe online, and so I want to give a shout out to them as well, because it's something that parents need to take very seriously to keep their children safe on the internet. It's very, very important. So Hamad, wonderful to see you in the comments. Thanks for joining us. Where can people find you, Matthew?
Well, they can find me, first of all, on Facebook, Twitter, and an Instagram. And my handle for all three is MAS Writer. That's MASWRITER. And if you follow me on Twitter, I post a daily table topics question, which is an offshoot of my nonfiction book, Mastering Table Topics, as you mentioned. So I give a sample question that people can use for practicing their table topics. So I do post a lot of different things. My website is MatthewArnoldStern.com. So please visit there. And I have been posting articles about my publishing journey with Black Rose, things that I'm learning, some of the insights that I've gathered from writing and getting this book published. So I encourage everybody to check that out. And if you do have any questions, feel free to contact me through any of those social media programs.
That's awesome.
Matthew, my final question for you is, if you could wave a magic wand and do something different in your journey as an author, what would that be?
Wave a magic wand. Well, I think one of the things that I've learned in the publishing journey is that everything, you already have the power in your own two hands. And what's important is that, first of all, that you write about what matters to you, that you write to seek connection. And really, connection is the goal with writing. We all dream about being a best-selling author, but if we can make a difference in one person's life, then we've done our job as authors. So that's where the magic already exists for all of us.
Yeah, very good.
I think that's fantastic.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. So we are so grateful that you were on today and with us, and we've had a really great time, and the time always runs out so quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It does. Matthew, thank you for being an awesome guest. And we invite you, the audience, to reach out to Matthew and also to go and get a copy of his book, Amiga. And so with that, we want to say a huge big thank you to each one of you for watching. Remember to write good stuff and to continue to be inspired one conversation at a time. So from me in Cape Town, it's goodbye for now.
Bye, and thank you very much. Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Bye, thanks.
Bye, thank you.